guys, I'm excited to be here with you guys this Sunday, and today for confirmation we're just going to kind of continue moving forward and growing deeper in our faith. And to do that, Hunter and I chose this Bible study called Deep, and so we're just going to get started with that, and that's what we're going to be doing for the next few weeks. So has anyone ever swam in the ocean before, or seen anyone swim in the ocean? Has anyone gone boogie boarding or maybe scuba diving? Usually when they are going, or when you see someone going beyond boogie boarding or just swimming casually in the ocean, they're either going to be scuba diving or snorkeling. So the snorkeler is chilling on the top of the water. They've got their little tube so they see what's directly below them. And while they're not up close to all of the cool stuff, they're still getting to see some of the cool stuff. But the snorkeler has no way of knowing what is below him and how deep everything is and what's so cool beyond him, because he's only at the surface. Whereas if a swimmer decides to scuba dive, they are putting on this big suit so that they can go deep down into the ocean, and they can get up close to things, and they can see things clearer than they had before, or better than they had before, and they can see so many things that they probably didn't even know existed. So if they don't take the plunge to go from scuba diver to snorkeler, they're never going to know what they missed, and they'll never know what's truly in store for them. And going deeper pays off, and they gain more meaning, appreciation, and wonder, excitement, and love for the ocean when a snorkeler could, just because they chose to dive deeper. So for me, it's kind of like when I started playing tennis. So I started playing tennis probably in 3rd or 4th grade. And at first it was just fun. I got to run around. I'm pretty sure my mom put me in it just to wear out some of my energy and to get me into more situations to talk to people, because I was talking everybody's ear off at home. So they were just trying to run my energy down. But after like the first little bit of tennis, I started actually learning more about the strategy behind it, and learning how to keep score, and learning different tips and tricks to be able to understand the game more. Then I started watching tennis with my grandmother, and we'd watch these tournaments and we'd strategize with that and things like that. And so as I learned more, it became more fun and fulfilling when I was playing. So practice wasn't just physical, but it was also this depth of knowledge, and it made me more interested in tennis. So what does tennis or scuba diving or snorkeling or going deeper have to do with our faith? Well, my question is, what would it look like to go deeper in our faith? This past school year during confirmation, you've begun this journey where you are growing deeper, where you've chosen to dive in, okay? So maybe you're a boogie boarder, maybe you're snorkeling, maybe you're just cruising along the water, but you've jumped in to some extent already, because you've chosen yes to confirmation, and you've chosen yes to going through this process and learning more and doing more and growing together. But are you ready to scuba dive? So how do you scuba dive in your faith? Or how do you get deeper? Or can you tell if you're going deeper? I think there are a lot of ways people think that they can deepen their faith, and a common word that comes with that is more. We think that growing in our faith means knowing more, or being more, or doing more than we are right now. Some people think that you can go deeper in your faith just by learning more, so head knowledge. But remember, knowing a lot about the Bible doesn't always equal knowing God. Some people think you can grow deeper by just going to church, like checking off the attendance box. Yes, I was here for this, I was here for this, I was here for this. But think about this. When you go to school, if you just walk into the school, do you learn all the stuff that you need, or do you have to sit and engage and act? So it's the same with our faith. You can't just walk into the church and expect to know all of the things. So what if growing deeper in your faith isn't actually about the perfect combination of going to church or memorizing things or growing your head knowledge? And while those are tools, maybe that's still not the point. So if those things aren't the point, what is? Luckily, Jesus has some answers to those questions. So I want you guys to pull out your Bibles. So you're pulling out your Bible, great. And we are going to find the book of Matthew. So Matthew is obviously in the Bible, but it's in the New Testament, so it's the second half-ish of the Bible, more like the last third. And so find Matthew, and then go on and find chapter 7, okay? And while you're doing that, I'm going to keep on chit-chatting. So where we are right now in Matthew chapter 7 is, at the beginning, there was a big group of people. They gathered to hear what Jesus was teaching. Like us, the crowd wanted to know how they could grow deeper in their faith and grow deeper spiritually, how to know God more and to grow in their faith. So Jesus had just finished what is known as the Sermon on the Mount, also known as he was teaching on the side of a mountain. And the Sermon on the Mount is famous because it talks about what to do if you want to grow spiritually, if you want to get to know God or deepen your faith. And like normal, when Jesus talked, he surprised people. He was often saying things that were contradictory to what they had been learning or different than what they had thought all of this time. And just like other times, that's what was happening here. And so like us, sometimes the people thought growing deeper was all about what we knew about God, but that wasn't necessarily the case. And when Jesus came, he began talking more about relationship. So Jesus knew that when it comes to faith, what we know is not nearly as important as what we do. So near the end of his mountain teaching, he started talking about houses. He liked to relate faith, something that was intangible, something that they necessarily couldn't visualize, to something that they knew really well. And all of these people were building houses for themselves, and they'd seen houses and they knew the houses that were strong, okay? So that's why he picked to talk about a house and relate that to faith. And so this is what Jesus said about houses. He said, "Everyone then who hears these words of mine and does them will be like a wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on the house, but it did not fall, because it had been founded on the rock." Matthew 7:24-25. So, our faith, we have two options. It can be like the weak and unstable house, or the sturdy and strong house. Or, in other words, we can have a flimsy faith or a solid, deep faith. I don't know about you guys, but I want a solid, deep faith. And so how do I get that? Well, let's go back to the very beginning of what I just read, and it was Matthew 7:24. "Everyone then who hears these words of mine and does them will be like a wise man who built his house on the rock." So Jesus said the reason that the house in his story made it through the storm wasn't just because the people knew all the facts. It wasn't because they knew what kind of storm was coming. It wasn't because they knew a lot about construction. But he said what was important is that the reason the house stood firm was because the builders acted on their knowledge. So they knew, and then they actually built their houses on the rock. So they knew they should build them on the rock, and then they built their houses on the rock. And they acted on what they knew was good and wise and right, and that helped them withstand the storm. And that's the same for us. So God uses our actions, not just our knowledge, to grow our faith. So God honors our obedience when we follow his plans. And when we begin to do some of the things he asks of us, God notices. That's acting out our faith. Even when it's difficult, even when it's not popular, even if it's something we really just don't want to do or don't feel like we have time to do it, it's like, honestly, we just want to do what we want to do. But when we do what God's called us to, it's an act of faith. And the more we do it, the deeper we'll grow in our relationship with God. God grows our faith through our actions, not just our knowledge. So I'm going to give you 2 action steps that can lead you to grow your faith more. So the first one is learn. Awesome. The first thing we need to do is learn what God asks his people to do. We need to know what God's about. We need to know what he stands for, what he stands against. We need to know what he's called us to do. And then the second thing is to apply what we've learned. So we take action and learn, and then we take action and apply what we've learned. And so that means for us this week, I want to encourage you to pick one thing that you know that is something God has asked his people to do, and practice it, and just do it. And I'm not asking you to do 15,000 things. I'm not asking you to be perfect at it. I just want you to start trying to put in that little bit of application, that effort to know God more, because he will honor that you are seeking him out. And so maybe this week doing something like that is knowing that God calls us to treat others the way we want to be treated. So you treat your family that you've been quarantined with the way you want to be treated. Do you want to be yelled at? Do you want to be tripping over everybody's stuff on the floor? Probably not. Do you want someone rolling their eyes at you all the time? No. So maybe this week, treat people how you want to be treated. And what a great way to practice it in the middle of this stuckness that we're in. Or maybe another thing is to talk to God through prayer. You can journal. We talked about that 2 weeks ago during our spiritual disciplines talk. Like, you can journal through prayer. You can journal prayers. You can talk to God through prayer. You can, maybe that means you want to worship every day. You want to listen to some worship songs to start out your day. There are lots of next steps that you can choose. And there's probably not really a wrong one as long as you're seeking out something that God's called you to do. And so I want to challenge you guys, choose and act. Learn, choose, and act. So 3 things really. But I just wanted to remind you that, remember, God is using our actions, not just our knowledge. So he's using our heart and our hands, not just our knowledge, to grow our faith. And so I want to ask you, how can you live that out? And I want to challenge you to do that. And maybe you can challenge your parents or your faith friends or other friends that you're chit-chatting with throughout this quarantine. I just wanted you guys to know that I miss y'all and that I love you guys, and I miss seeing all of your faces and maybe having to be like shh in the middle of class, but I miss all of y'all and I miss your energy, and I hope you're doing well. And I will chat with you next week. All right, bye guys.